Oh, we're live. Technology is doing a funny thing. I think I was just sitting there like waiting for this to go live, but we are live already. Hello, besties and bosses, and those of you listening on the vault later. I am so looking forward to this conversation. This is maybe, I don't know, I feel like I say every topic is my favorite topic, but this is definitely up there on it's one of the most important conversations I think we can have as business owners. We talk so much about making money in our business, and obviously that's important. Being profitable is important. We're going to talk a lot about that. That's what I support clients with. Obviously, that's what I care about. I have a healthy love for money and what it can do for us in life, but I don't think we talk all that much about how to use your business as a vehicle to build financial security, stability, to build wealth, what we do with the money we make. And so I want to talk about that today. I'd like to have these conversations once in a while. And we're going to talk about passive income and the easiest money I've ever made, but not through my business. How I use my business in a one-on-one model to make passive income, but not in the way you might think. This was prompted because I did a couple of reels that actually one of them got like 86,000 views or something like that. So clearly it's what people wanted to hear, just talking about millionaires and some stats around that. And someone had asked me to do some more conversations around money and wealth building. So here we are. Before we dive in to this, and let me just prep what we're going to dive into so you know what we're talking about. Feel free to ask questions. Let me know if you're here. I want this to benefit you. And I'll also tell you about our giveaway. But I'm going to break down specifically some stats and surprising information about millionaires. I think is really important for you to know as a business owner. And this is something I just think about quite a bit. I think this is just a truth piece. We're going to speak to, and I'm going to share a little bit about my thought process around making money, how I make money, how I think about what I do with my money. I'm going to share a decision and how I decided to create my passive income stream. This is a decision I made years ago in my business. And then I will also talk a little bit about why I'm obsessed with take-home pay for you and how you can use that to build wealth. Our giveaway. I have something that you can't get publicly. In fact, I don't even know that many of my clients have this. I ran a program a couple of years ago called Leverage that was all about leveraging your money to make more money. And I have a playbook that is quite juicy and you cannot get it anywhere else. You can't buy it on my website. And it is a leverage playbook, and it will walk you through how to think about using your profits to make passive income. If you're live, say hi, comment below. If you're a client of mine, you always get all of my stuff. If this is something you want, just message me in Basecamp. Obviously, I'll give that to you. We'll let someone who isn't a client win this. But if you're live, say hello. You will be entered to win that playbook, and I'll give that away to someone. Again, you can't get this anywhere else. Okay, so let's talk the easiest money I've ever made. So in terms of the easiest money I've ever made, it's passive income, but not in the way you think. So I have an all one-on-one business model, for those of you who don't know, for those of you who are new to my world. So I think hearing passive income can almost be like, how the F do you make passive income, Kim? I do have a revenue sharing model. So clients pay me a base rate and then 10% of new revenue they generate while working together. So technically my revenue sharing model is passive income, and that is passive revenue that I make every month. However, I don't really see that as passive because I'm very not passively involved in my clients' businesses. I partner with them. I take as active and as an approach as they want and need, which can vary depending on what season they're in. But some of my clients I talk to every day, I'm reviewing content, I'm messaging and supporting them in Basecamp. They have multiple calls with me. I'm quite a hands-on coach. So yes, I guess we could technically say, because it doesn't come through the base rate, that's passive income. But I just don't really see that as passive income. I see that as more the business model. But the easiest money I've ever made has been really deciding to use the profits and the overflow that my one-on-one model makes to invest and to use investments to make passive income. For example, last month alone, I think just one of my investments, this is not my whole portfolio, but just one of my investments made me an extra $25,000. And I literally have not done anything outside of 2 years ago, right? Putting in my investment because I think I've had that investment for 2 years, right? Choosing the investment probably took me 5 minutes, right? To put that money in there. So I did 5 minutes of work and made $25,000. To me, that is the most passive income you can ever make. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. Now, I'm going to give lots of disclaimers. I'm not a financial advisor. I'm not a financial planner. This is not financial advice. However, I do think there's quite an important conversation for us as business owners to be thinking about in terms of profitability and what we're doing with those profits and how we're leveraging those profits, because it is, this is a conversation I'm having with my clients. I think this is just something we don't talk a lot about. And because we don't talk a lot about it, I think people just don't necessarily know. I grew up, my mom was as a head exec at a bank growing up and was the breadwinner until my dad racing took off. My dad was a race car driver and then coach. But for my like formative years, my mom was the one who worked and made all the money. So I have quite an example of that. And she came from a banking and data analysis background. Like I was raised by someone who taught me how to think about money, what to do with money. And so this comes very easily and naturally to me, but I do not think this is how most people are raised. I don't think most people have financial education literacy. And I don't think it's what our online space and business space talks about. Like there's a drop in the bucket. I can think of like 5 people who talk about this, right? Most of it is more about how to manifest lots of money, how to make big money at any cost. A lot of talk is about like the lifestyle, the kind of like money in the moment. I love, what is this? Morgan Hassel's the author of The Psychology of Money, talks about the difference between being rich and being wealthy. I've shared this before, but just to give context here, being rich is the money you can see. It is your lifestyle. It's the money you have now. Even sometimes people, the money they don't have, right? The credit they use to create a rich looking lifestyle. Wealth is the money people can't see. It is all the assets. And in my opinion, wealth is not only the money people can't see, but I always like to think about wealth as also, it's usually the money that's also making you money. And I think our online space is very, very, very rich focused. What is the money people can see? What is the lifestyle? There's nothing wrong with that. I have a very bougie fucking lifestyle. I love me some nice things, but that has come after building wealth, which is the money no one can see unless I'm talking about it here. And I think that's where the passive income and the easiest money that we'll ever make comes from. And I just wish we talked about so much more. I'm going to share some stats. And then I'm going to share my thought process around this, and then I'll give you some thoughts on that. But let me share these stats first. This is the truth about most millionaires you need to know. Because I think so many of us in business, we want to make 6 figures, we want to make $1 million, right? That's the holy grail in, I think, our online space. I don't know. There's some spaces where it's like we want to make $1 million a month. But I think for most of you, making 6-figure years, reaching to $1 million business, like that would be really desirable. Recent studies, I share this on Instagram. This was the reel that blew up. I think this is just so important to take in because this will tell you everything you need to know about passive income and about actually becoming a millionaire. Because there's a very big difference between making $1 million and being a millionaire. You can make $1 million and not even take home 6 figures. One of the reasons I do not stress about having a one-on-one only model and about chasing more money is I know I have a very, 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 very profitable business. We have an insane profit margin. I know I am taking home cash more than many $1 million businesses because my expenses are so low, even with team support and all of that. So I think it's really important to hear first and foremost. There's nothing wrong with that, right? There's nothing wrong with being $1 million business and taking home the same amount as me. But I think we get so wrapped up in just the flashy numbers and we don't realize that at the end of the day, what I'm concerned about for you and your financial stability, freedom, wealth building is what are you actually taking home? And so I think that's just important to know, right? Just because you make $1 million does not mean you are a millionaire. That does not make you, being a millionaire means that you have $1 million in assets or more liquid, right? It means that it doesn't even mean you made $1 million in a year. It means that you have that sitting in an account somewhere. So I want to share that so that we can be on the same context here. So according to a recent study, most millionaires meaning they have $1 million sitting in an account or more, multimillionaires, have never made 6 figures. Most millionaires have never made 6 figures. According to a national study on millionaires, 93%, that's not like 3%, 93% said they got their wealth not because they had big salaries. It's because they said they worked hard, but I think it's that they worked smart with their money. 31% averaged 6 figures over the course of their year. 31%. So that's actually not even half made 6 figures over the course of their year. And 1/3 never, ever, ever had a 6-figure year in their working career life and became millionaires. Let that sink in for you. I don't think we really understand that. I think as business owners in the online space, we just really think it is all about how do I just hurry up, make 6 figures, multi-6, 7 figures. And look, I have a multi-6-figure business. I'm focused on scaling, but I'm not focused on scaling at all costs. I'm focused on what matters to me is how I make my money, right? That I like the way I make my money. That's why I stick with one-on-one, right? That I believe in what I'm doing, that I'm making money. Ken Honda, there's a great book called Happy Money, talks about happy money, right? That I'm making happy money. And I know at the end of the day, it's not about how much money you make. It's about how much money as business owners you take home and pay yourself, and then what you do with that money. Those are the two factors that will determine your wealth or not how much money you make. You can let this sink in. You can become a millionaire and never have a six-figure year ever in your business, and you can become a millionaire. You can have multi-six figures, which I think is very reasonable for many. I don't want to say most. I don't want to put promises out there, but I think multi-six figures is a very reasonable goal for a lot of business owners, especially service providers. And those of you in this space, you can have. Just imagine that's true without making six figures. You can make multi-six figures, and you can pay yourself really well and build really great wealth. You can be more wealthy than someone who has a business that is generating $1 million or more per year. I really want you to hear that, because that is one of the things that gives me so much ease in my business. It makes it easy for me to say the easiest money I've ever made. It's not just that I make money easily in my business because I love it, but knowing this is informs some of my decisions. That's helped me to have financial security, to build wealth, to be able to have one investment just make me $25,000, right? That's extra money. I don't know if we understand this. This is what I get excited about. That $25,000 I made, that will keep making me money. Because of the way that is now an asset that's worth more, that will continue to generate money. So I think we just need to understand that. So you can never make six figures, become a billionaire. You can make multi-six figures, right? And you can have more assets. You can be wealthier. Not that it's a competition, but I think sometimes we just get so focused on the wrong things, or we don't understand why we're chasing certain things. There is nothing wrong with chasing a big business and having a big business and making multi-millions per year if that's what you want. Right? If that's what lights you up, and I just did a live with a friend, Jason Moss, about six-figure launch secrets on Instagram. Go catch the replay. It was a really great conversation. I highly recommend the replay. He's also just a really grounded, lovely human, and I really appreciate what he had to say. So check that out. But we were just talking so much about, how important it is to, and I lost my train of thought, to love the work you do. But I think this is the thing here. It is absolutely okay. There are absolutely people who want really big businesses, right? And that's a great reason to go after a multi-million, huge business if that's what you want. But if you're going after that, if you're going after more and more money because you think, because this is the trap I got into at the start of my business, because you think that's the only way to have more money and to be safe and secure, if you think that's the only way to build wealth, or if you think that's you're trying to prove something, I just want you to see there are so many other ways. Okay, I'm on a soapbox here, but I get very, very passionate about this. So you never need to make six figures in your business to become a millionaire, and I'll explain how. But just imagine that if you are making six figures or more, which again is very realistic and possible for many of you, what that means you can create in terms of your assets and your wealth. And again, it's not a competition, but I think when we understand this, right? I think, and then when we start to look at how do I build a business around a model I actually like, that is actually profitable, that gives me take home pay, that I can then leverage into investments that can be actual passive income for me, that make me money literally while I'm sleeping, that's what changes the game. Something I think about a lot is I'm on track to retire early with multiple millions in the bank. And I won't probably retire early because I love my work so much, but here's the fun thing about that. That kind of passive revenue, let's just say I were to retire early, I could spend some of that money, and the money I have, because it's an actual engine, an investment engine that is using my money, it's leveraging my money to make more money, it will keep making me money, even if I never put anything into it. That is the crazy thing about thinking of passive income that way and thinking about investments. That will become a money, that will just be able to pay me a salary. I can take a certain amount out and I'll still have the same amount there, right? Because it'll just kind of keep regenerating. It's like, what are those toys when we were a kid? Do you remember? It was like this thing you put in the water and it grew really big. And I feel like you could take pieces off and it just always expanded. Or there was that story about the Mama Noma's spaghetti pot that is no matter how much spaghetti you ate, it kept coming out. That's kind of the beauty of when you learn how to leverage your money and grow assets as opposed to just spending it all on lifestyle. Not only is it the easiest money you'll ever make, right? You put some money in and it grows and you're using your money to make more money. But once it gets to a certain point, you can actually start to take some money out And if you don't touch, not to like get too heady with this, but if you don't touch the principal, it will just keep generating money for you, even as it's paying you a salary. I mean, come on, tell me that's not like the most fun thing in the entire world to think that if you put some money aside, right, if you invest in a smart way, that you're going to get to a point where not only do you not have to work if you don't want to, but that you can get paid. And while you're getting paid, the asset that is paying you money will keep making more money for you. Like literally your money will go to work for you. To me, that is the most exciting thing in the entire world. And that is one of the things that makes me feel great about sticking with a one-on-one model and doing the work I love, because I'm not asking my business to make me wealthy. I'm asking my business to let me find the way that I can generate overflow that feels really good, right? Because that's going to have me keep wanting to do it, right? Because I want to enjoy my day today until ever I do retire. Maybe I don't want to retire. And I'm asking my business to fulfill me in that way, right? To give me that revenue. I'm asking it to be the generator of the overflow to actually build my wealth somewhere else. I don't need my business to do that, which also takes all the pressure off my business and makes it way, 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 way more fun. And I think that is the thing we don't think or talk about a lot in the online space. And I think that's where a lot of people get really trapped in their business and they feel really stuck because there is such a feeling of like, I just got to scale at any cost, or I just got to make this bigger and bigger. Or, right, I think there's a lot of, I got to keep up to prove. I shared this in the email around this. I know when I started my business, when I started making money as a coach, 5-6 years ago, I felt so much pressure to keep making more and more money because I really felt I needed to prove something, not to myself, but I really felt that if I didn't make more and more money, people wouldn't think I was a good coach, and that was the only way for me to be okay. And when I realized, first and foremost, like, said with so much love, please no one ever hire me because of the money I do or don't make. I make more than a lot of my clients. I make less than a lot of my clients. I hope none of my clients have hired me because of the money I make. And if you're joining live, say hi. We've got a fun giveaway today. Let me know if you have any questions. But when I realized, that has nothing to, the money I make has nothing to do with my skill set. It's a very small portion of my skill set. I'm a great coach because I've been coaching for 10 years. I've been doing one-on-one for 10 years. I've been in business for 8. I've been on thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of coaching calls at this point. And I am also in the trenches myself as a business owner. I study business. Like, I literally study marketing and sales, and this shit to this day, 8 years later in business, daily, weekly, right? That's what makes me a good coach. I think the way I'm able to support clients and hold space and literally the level of support I give my clients, like I talk to many of them, like I was saying earlier, day to day, like that's why my clients hire me, not because of how little or how much money I make. Hi, Laura, nice to see you. Hi. But when I realized this, that really helped me to kind of get out of this thing of like, I just need to make more and more money to prove anything to anyone else, because I really did have that mentality, not even to myself, but I really did think if I don't keep making more money month after month, people are going to think I'm not a good coach, because I think that's the messaging our online space, honestly, whether it says it out loud or not, I do think that's some of the messaging our space gives. And so when that just gave me so much freedom to unhook from that. But the other thing I realized is there was a part of me, based on my past and some of some of the trauma that we don't need to get into here, but some of the things that have happened to me with finances and security, I think I also really had a wiring of, I just need to work harder and harder and make more and more money so that I can, so that I can know that I'm okay, right, and safe. And like the only way that's going to be okay is if I keep literally making more money. Like there was very much a safety element from that. And so when I made the decision, and I think this is just maybe helpful to hear, when I made the decision that, first of all, I don't need to prove, right? Like that's just not where, like what makes me a good coach or not. And the more I intrinsically believe that and own that and share that, the more I attract clients who believe that. And the beautiful thing about a one-on-one business model, even though I have lots of clients who don't have a one-on-one business model, but even if you have a one-to-many, you have a mastermind or a group, most of you are not serving thousands and thousands of people. Maybe max you're serving 30 to 100 people. That's a very, very small segment of any audience, of any world. The beautiful thing is when you can really get your mind on board with that and look to attract people who really are hiring you for the value you provide and the support you provide and what your zone of genius is, as opposed to a monetary metric, right? Like you attract those people, and it doesn't matter if even 2/3 of your audience thinks the different, because you don't actually need that to make great money. So there's that part of it. But it took a lot of pressure off the business, but it also allowed me to really look at, but wait a second, I also I don't want to be in a place where I feel like I'm always having to chase more money to feel security. Like I don't want to chase for my sense of safety, for my sense of freedom, for my sense of stability, like nothing about that actually feels like the emotion, the feeling I'm actually going for. If that is safety, if that is security, if that is freedom, right? No part of chasing and proving and like always needing to hustle and always needing to make more, and honestly feeling like maybe I need to have a business model that that lets me make more money faster. Like none of that actually fits the thing I'm actually trying to achieve. And I think when that happened, I was like, well, wait a second. I have this great business that I love that's making me great money, and I'm in overflow, and I'm a smart cookie with money. I've always been investing. What if I just start to think about my business being the way that I generate revenue and profit to pay myself? And the more I can focus on having a really healthy profit margin where I pay myself well, right? And the more I focus on not having, because I think this is almost another conversation, but I think one of the traps we see in our online space is I think it's very easy for people to get caught up in the lifestyle trap, and lifestyles just get bigger and bigger and bigger. And so lifestyles are always matching the level of revenue or sometimes outpacing it. And look, again, like I said at the beginning of our live stream, I have a bougie lifestyle. I love me some nice shit. But I've always, I learned this when I was acting, I've never allowed my lifestyle to outpace my income, my revenue, what I'm taking home. When you can learn how to reverse that, and when you can start to see your business as, yes, a vehicle to pay you really well, but a vehicle, if it pays you really well, and if you're really profitable, and you allow your pay to outpace your lifestyle, Lori, you'll have to let me know if this is making sense, and I'm going to read your comment. Right? If you can allow your pay to outmatch your lifestyle and use that overflow to invest into assets. So Robert Kiyosaki talks about this. There's a difference between liabilities and assets. Wealthy people first spend their money on assets. So assets are vehicles that generate revenue for you. So that might be, traditional stock. That might be in rental property. I personally think my business is an asset, right? I've always invested into myself and my business first because my business gives me more of a return than any the stock market ever will be. But right, wealthy people invest in assets first and buy liabilities. Second, liabilities are everything that we buy. It's basically our lifestyle. It is what people see as being rich, but actually assets are what make you wealthy, right? That's the difference between perceived money and actually having money left over that's making you money. People with trying to think of how to frame this. I think when we don't have a wealthy mindset, we tend to have that inverted, where we spend on being rich and on liabilities first, and then whatever's left over, we think about investing that into assets. So liabilities are things like your lifestyle. They are things like, I upgraded to this beautiful apartment I live in. It would be, this apartment is a liability. It's a car. Honestly, if you buy a house, until you've kind of flipped over into it being paid off, right? These are this dress, right? Clothes, getting my hair done, like all of these things are liabilities. Now, I think we need to have liabilities. We gotta fucking enjoy our lives, right? Like I said, I love me some bougie shit. But I think when we start to think about not having this inverted and really looking at how do we not pay ourselves first to go buy liabilities, how do we pay ourselves first to think about buying assets? That's when you start to have a passive income machine, an engine that just grows and compounds. And even if you're just putting a tiny bit in, this just keeps making money. I know y'all have heard this before, but I just cannot stress enough. Like, this is how you set yourself up to be a millionaire, and you never have to make six figures ever. You literally never have to make six figures in a calendar year ever. And this is how you can set yourself up to be a millionaire or multimillionaire. This is how I know I'm on track to, again, retire early with multi-millions in the bank that will keep making me money even when I take money out to pay myself. But again, we have to learn how to inverse this this way what we do with our profits. Hold on, let me hear what Laura says, because there's a bunch of comments, and then I will say the things. Laura says, just realized I can hop on for a few minutes, and I will pop out to finish preparing for our session. I will be doing the same. Loving this topic, thank you. Yes, totally makes sense, and nobody's talking about this, so important. Oh, I love you for saying that. I'm glad it's making sense as well. So when I made that decision, I think everything changed for me, my business. Things actually got more fun. Like, I always talk about how I see business as a game, but like, it really started to become a game because I stopped caring about like my business was at a place where it was stable. Of course, like, I think the elephant in the room here is we need to have our business generate enough that obviously you can, like, I don't think your like basic needs as a human, we would consider a liability, right? Like, we all have to be able to cover those things. But for most of us, if we're honest, right, we consider a lot of things that aren't basic needs as liabilities, and we consider are as like need to haves, and we consider things like building wealth as not a need to have. And one of the things I'm really grateful to past Kim for is, when this is a little bit of a tangent, but I think this will make sense for y'all. I spent 10 years acting. When I was acting, what I learned really quickly is, first of all, my job, like my income there, is so not guaranteed, and I was waiting tables, and I care about having lots of money in the bank. Like that's something, again, security, safety, but also I want the financial freedom and what that gives me, because financial freedom means I am never stuck in a bad situation with a male or with a person or at a job, right? It's just giving me a lot of freedom to leave situations that, as a female, especially in the entertainment, and I shouldn't say entertainment, my team has told me that makes it sound like I'm a sex worker of the acting industry. But right, like having money in the bank and having some sense of financial security, it's not just about like I want to buy things. Like it really has given me choices and freedoms. When my dad was sick, right, that let me go home and be with him. There's a lot. It has allowed me to move to New York City, but it also has helped me to leave situations that I think otherwise as women sometimes it can just be tougher. It's not going on a tangent there, but I realized very quickly, both waiting tables and being an actress, like that's not necessarily my path to becoming a millionaire, or having financial security, or building wealth, or any of these things. So I started investing like the smallest amount, y'all, from the leftover of my tips, the smallest amount. But here's what's fun about this. I just did that every month, starting at, I don't know, 23. Today, that is making me so much money. I haven't touched, so I stopped doing that probably when I started my business. I took a couple of years off because everything I was investing when I started my business was back into me, because I am the best asset I can ever invest in. Always, I will always say that. Me and my business, always the best assets. I will always invest first and most heavily there, right? But then I started reinvesting. To date, that is still one of like the different like assets, investments I have to date. That little tiny bit amount that I did every month, starting at 23, like that's added up to be so much. And what the fun thing is, I haven't touched it in probably a decade, and it's still making me money and growing. And that's the fun thing with this. Like, talk about the easiest money you'll ever make, talk about real passive income, but it does require us to start to think about money in a slightly different way, because I think we're just so quick to think, what can I buy? What, like how, like, and I get it. Like, it feels good, especially if I was on a budget, y'all, when I moved to New York City and I started my business. You probably have heard me share this story. I literally did not have enough money left over. I was working a 9-to-5 job and a serving job and a weird job where I sold like promoted liquor bottles at a wine shop. I mean, I was doing all the odd end jobs to be able to pay for my rent and my coach at the time. And so literally going out, I remember going to get a cup of coffee with my husband, who was my boyfriend at the time, and buying one of those little date balls, the like date and cocoa ball things. Anyway, it was like $16, and I almost had a mental breakdown because I did not have an extra $16. Like, it was that stressful to me. So I do not want anyone to hear this and to think like, oh, this must be nice for you to say, Kim, because I've been on all the different sides of this, right? But at that time, I was working to invest in myself and my business. Like, and the reason I'm sharing this is I still had to make choices, right? I made the choice to live in New York City, which was quite expensive, right? That was a liability. I could have absolutely lived somewhere less, but because I made that choice for liability, it's like, I'm going to invest in assets first, which was me and my business. It meant I really had to look at things like coffee, and I didn't buy new clothes for 3 years. And I think we can hear that and think, it's such a scarcity mindset, or that's not an abundance mindset. But I didn't buy new clothes for 3 years because, to me, at that stage, that was a liability, and I didn't want to chase. I just need to prove to people that I have a lot of money and I have nice clothes. I wanted to take the money I was bringing in and pour it back into the biggest asset, my business. And then when I started generating good revenue, I wanted to pour it back into the assets that make me money, because that's how I'm going to have multiple millions in the dollars in the bank. And to me, I'd rather have multiple $1 million in the bank making me money than 8 years ago having a time period where I couldn't buy a new fucking blouse or dress or something to try to prove to other people that I was, that I was wealthier than I was. And I'm saying that there's nothing wrong with buying new clothes. I buy new clothes all the time. That's not the message I want to say here. But I think hearing this thought process, because I think sometimes our space makes it seem like you've got to prove that you have money, and that's an abundance mindset. And I just want to offer, maybe there's a room where it's a little bit gray, and there's room for both depending on what's most important at the time. And there's a way to see that sometimes not splurging on the thing, not buying the thing, so that you can take that overflow to pay yourself and your future first. Right? Like, that can be the most abundant mindset. Okay. Okay, no problem. I thought there was another question there, Laura. So don't mind me. Okay, I'm going off on tangents, and there were a couple things I wanted to make sure I touched on here. I just get very animated about this because this is so simple. Like this is like for everyone hearing this, if you think about this, then your goal in business is to look at how can I create a profitable business model. This is why I'm obsessed with take home pay over revenue. I frankly do not care how much business, like money a business makes, if like I'm not I should say, not that I don't care, I'm not impressed by someone bragging on how much money their business makes and making 100K per month if they made that money by burning out, they made that money doing shit they hate, or they spent just as much money or near just as much money, right, to like make that money, or they're blowing it all on their lifestyle. And not to say I'm not impressed or like I don't care, like I mean everyone gets to make their own decisions, but for me, like what I think is like the flex, like that's the term the cool kids are using, right? Like the flex, the money flex to me is like, show me the person who has a profitable as fuck business, who's paying themselves well, and who's taking some of that overflow to actually build real passive income streams that are leveraged, that let their money make them money, right? They're using their business as a vehicle to build true wealth outside of their business. Show me your investment portfolio. Show me what you're doing with your money. Like that to me is the flex over the fact that you just went on a $50,000 mastermind retreat. Like I'm not hating. I think there's a time and a place for that, but I think that's just all we see online as opposed to the people who are, because that's the thing, right? Rich is money, that the money you can see. Wealthy is the money in assets you can't see. But because of that, right, there's nothing wrong with richness. I have so much of it, right? But if we don't, because of that, we just don't talk a lot about the wealth building piece. And so this is why I'm obsessed with profit. And this is why I'm obsessed with take home pay, because if you can start to focus on that in your business and learning how to make take home pay in a way that's in alignment, in a way that feels good, in a way that feels sustainable, right? In a way that gives you some overflow. And we're not talking a lot of overflow. You don't have to have massive amounts of overflow. And if you can then start to have the mentality that says, when money comes into my life, right, I pay for baseline human needs and business expenses first. But then before I go buying rich lifestyle things, I just take a small portion of that to buy assets, to buy my passive income machine, right? To invest into that and then take the overflow for all the rich lifestyle things. If you can start getting into that mentality and treating your money that way, a couple things happen. First, you build so much financial security because you're always living, even with your beautiful lifestyle, on less than you actually make, right? What's nice for me with my model with revenue share, because of this, I'm never worried about how much comes in with revenue shares. I'm not counting on it for my life or for my lifestyle. I'm counting on that to build my passive income outside of business, right? So I want that coming in. I'm going to absolutely leverage it. But if I have a month where that's less or clients don't do as well, like there's no stress in that, right? I'm literally always living on in a very beautiful, abundant life. Right, but I think it just like it gives you actually quite a bit of safety and security, not even thinking about the money you have in savings, but just by seeing like you actually don't need as much as you think you do to have this beautiful life. But it also just guarantees then that you're thinking like a wealthy person. This, I promise you, this is what wealthy people do, right? And you're building wealth for yourself. And again, if you do this, you never have to even make 6 figures per year. Remember the stats I shared earlier? 1/3 of people who are millionaires never even had a single 6-figure year. And 93% of them said it wasn't because of their money that they made them millionaires, right? So if you think about your money that way and you treat it this way, and you start to think about, my job is not to tell you what the right passive income asset strategy is for you. It's different for everyone. I have friends, I have clients who really look at rental properties. I personally don't want to deal with that and what comes with that. I literally want as passive as possible. So I'm quite heavily invested in, if this is helpful to hear, I always like to first and foremost look at investments that I get a tax benefit as a business owner. So I'm looking first and those change for you as your revenue changes. I always want to look at maximizing those first, because to me, I get to double dip that way, right? Because I get the tax savings, it's pre-tax dollars, plus it's making money for me. And then I generally am looking more at things like stocks and crypto. I have some REITs. I can never pronounce that properly. I'm in some some different projects that I don't have to manage because I literally want this to be passive. I want to be active in my business and then let my money make me money and be passive. But there's not a right or wrong wrong way. I would say leveraging personally, again, I'm not a financial planner or advisor, but I would say when we're looking at passive income streams based on what we're talking about here, I think as a business owner, there's just so many tax advantages. I think that just always makes sense to start with. And what I would say for any of you who have things where it's like you don't have a savings buffer or you have some debt, again, I'm not a financial planner, so I'm always like mindful of how I want to share this. I would be thinking about those pieces as well, right? I've built up both my business and personal savings to be quite healthy, so that we can ride quite a bit of time before, even needing to pull on investments. I think that can be very stabilizing for most people's nervous systems. I wouldn't say that's the fastest way to make passive income, because usually your interest rates on savings accounts are going to be lower, but I think there's really something to be said for the nervous system stability. And if you're carrying debt, depending on the interest rate for that, sometimes it's going to be more advantageous to pay that down before investing elsewhere. That being said, I will say, again, I'm just so mindful of how to say this, because everyone's situations are a little bit different, and I'm not an financial planner advisor, but something I really think about is after a certain amount of savings, you're kind of costing yourself a lot of money. And I really am always thinking about it. This is helpful to think about the thought process of how can I use my money to make me more money? How can I literally leverage it? How can I have my business bring in overflow so that my business is the vehicle to bring me the overflow to invest in those assets that are going to go to work for me for years and decades to come, right? That's how it's going to keep paying me a salary. Even if I take the money off, if I don't touch the principal, that is just going to keep paying me a 6-figure or more salary. That's kind of the goal there. And so with that in mind, I just know at a certain point, after a certain amount of savings, I'm really limiting my ability to build that passive income wealth generating machine, because I live in New York City. I want to have multiple millions when I retire. I know what I want to retire really comfortably, even if I never retire. And so with that in mind, I personally, again, this is personal, not advice, but I don't like to oversave. I have a very healthy savings that I think is responsible as a business owner with the team I have to pay for what my life is. I'm the breadwinner, all of that. But after that, I really look at maximizing investments. And the thing with investments is your time in the market. The best time to invest was yesterday. The next best time is today. So your time in the market is a long game play. Even when I shared, I made $25,000 from one investment last month. Even that, I think that was actually a pretty quick return. But that was something I invested in 2 or 3 years ago. So, and when I talk about when I was 23 and I started investing in, it was like a retirement, I think it was a Roth, and just putting kind of the base, bare minimum in there. We're talking almost 20 years later, right? It's taken time for that to really generate real money for me. And so basically time in the market is where you really win. And so I do think there's really something to playing a little bit of an edge there, where it's looking at, sometimes it makes sense to invest in my opinion, to invest in assets even before you have all of the other buffers and safety things into place, because of how much you're going to benefit long term from time in the market, especially if you're in a place, for example, when I was growing this business, okay, myself and my business were the first asset I invested in. But after that, when my business started generating money, I honestly kept my job longer than I needed to. And part of the reason for that is what we're talking about here. I wanted to be able to invest and save some of that. And that just gave me some of the safety where it's okay, I don't have a huge buffer right now because I use that all to build my business and my life here. But I do trust my ability to make ends meet and a little bit of fun lifestyle stuff. I traveled, I did some fun stuff between these two things here, but this gives me a little bit of extra. I'd rather generate that extra to build this wealth generating machine. And I just trust my ability to do that. So it felt okay to not build up as much savings at that point, if that's making sense. But I didn't have kids, right? I wasn't married at the time. I wasn't the breadwinner at the time, right? There were a lot of factors there. And I think if you're someone who's maybe married, if you're the breadwinner, I have more savings now because of that. If you have kids, if maybe you're a little bit older, depending on different factors, what I'm saying here is why this is a little bit nuanced, might not make sense for you. It might actually make sense to focus on having a little bit more of that runway before adding as much to your passive income asset column. Kate says, love hearing this, Kim. I'm very much in on focusing growing savings, which I've never been able to do before, hoping to look at the different investments in the near future. I'm so glad. I'm proud of you, Kate. I think I'm just so teams, can we all just talk about this more? I want to encourage everybody who's in a space where you can. I think it's just so helpful, especially as women, but I think for men as well, to be talking about this more. Kate, celebrating you in that. I think that's such a big deal. And I hope, again, I know, just because I know you, Kate, I know you have a family. I think I read online, I think you shared this on one of my posts, that you're the breadwinner. So you might be in a different position where building up the savings. Again, I'm not a financial planner, everybody, or advisor, so take this loosely. But I think this is a great example of a nuanced situation where it might make sense to build up a little bit of the buffer first before really looking into those investments. However, since you and I are business owners, what I always like to remember with investments is, if I know it's different because you're in the UK, but in the US, there are, as business owners, and depending on what your business structure is, so I'm an S Corp here in the US, and as an S Corp, there are different ways I can invest in retirement with business pre-tax dollars. And so it literally means I will pay less in taxes. Like, the money's either going to go to the government or I can invest it into my retirement. It's going to kind of be a wash either way. And so to me, I think you might be interested to talk, and Kate, I don't know your situation, but just overall for everyone thinking about this, if you start to understand these things and look into these things, sometimes you can actually get away with investing from your business, and it will not affect at all what your take-home pay is, because you would have either paid it to taxes, because this is pre-tax dollars, it doesn't, right? So you're paying yourself the same amount, and then you can still also save. So this is maybe getting a little more in the weeds than we need to, but I want to bring this here because those are things I did not know about 6 years ago. I've always been financially savvy. I grew up with a mom who worked in a bank. I've been investing since I was 23. I've been saving my money since I was 9 years old, and we got robbed, and they stole my little jar of $9. I got like 25 cents a week, so you can do the math on how long that took me to save up, and I would do odd jobs. And my little side businesses, right? But I've been saving money and investing money from an early age. But things like, because I'm an S Corp, there are ways I can invest in retirement that are pre-tax dollars, right? So I kind of get to have that double dip there, especially since I'm in a higher tax bracket. I didn't know about those things until I was having more conversations with peers, with my coach, with friends, with people. And so that's why I also want to bring this here, because I think sometimes we just don't know we don't know. And if people aren't talking about it, and all we see is someone saying, I made a six-figure month and just went on a 50K retreat, and then went to Bali, and then flew first class, and then bought this house, which there's nothing wrong with. Again, I am so for, I live, I think, a very abundant life in New York City. I'm so for all of that, but that's all we see on social media. So when that's all we see, we don't know about things like, there are some really easy ways for us to build passive income, for us to leverage money, for us to have literally a passive income vehicle that will just keep making money for you, especially if you let it sit for a while until it gets to a certain point, even if you take money out of it. Okay, clearly, I'm very excited about this. I feel like I'm all hot and bothered, but this is the thing, y'all. So I'll kind of close with this, because then, as Laura said, I would never tell you who my clients are, but since she said we have a call coming up, I want to make sure that I can go and prep for our call, because I do a session after this. But what I want to leave you with is just a couple of things here. Everything we're talking about here, it's a mindset. It's also a habit and a practice. None of what we're talking about requires you to go and make more money. I'm for everybody making more money, but I hope one of the takeaways you get from this conversation is you never need to make more money. Unless you're just not making, covering base needs for yourself, and I think that's a different conversation. And that's okay too, right? Like I've shared my story, we've all been there. But if you're in the place where you're making, you're covering your base needs and you're able to get a little bit of life's luxuries, you never have to make more money to become a millionaire. You never need to make six figures to become a millionaire. But for that to be true, we have to start thinking like a wealthy person, right? And wealthy people think about, how do I invest in assets before liabilities? Liabilities are not your base human needs. How do I play the long game, right? We have to think in that way, and that is what creates that. But I want you to hear that, because I think that can just take so much pressure off of you in business. And then I also hope you'll walk away from this conversation realizing that also means your business really gets to be the vehicle where you learn how to do what you love and monetize that. I'm all for you making great money and building whatever model you want and scaling. Again, I have clients who make $1 million plus $2 million businesses. I'm all for that, who have very different business models than me. But I hope hearing this will help you see that you really get to choose the model of the work you love to make the happy money, as Ken Honda calls it. And if you're doing that and you're also looking at profitability and what you pay yourself, like looking at how you make your money, what you pay yourself, and what you do with that money, those three things are going to be the biggest determiners for your, yes, rich now, but your wealth later. Nothing else determines your wealth later more than that. And so I think when we can hear that, I think it just helps take a lot of the pressure off and a lot of the chasing off and a lot of the stress off and a lot of the like trying to keep up with other people. If you can just remember how you make your money, and I'm going to forgot what I said. How you make your money, how much money you're able to pay yourself, basically, and then what you do with your money. Those three factors determine your wealth more than anything. So how you make your money, meaning, do you love what you do? Is it sustainable, right? If you make $1 million and you hate it, you're going to probably spend it all to sabotage because you're miserable, but you're also going to burn your business down or quit. Like that doesn't do you any good. So how you make your money matters. How much you take home, right? So what we were talking about earlier, if you make $1 million, but it costs you $900K to make $1 million, you're still taking home six figures, which is great. But I think just remember that if you're making $1 million per year and it costs you $1,500,000, right? You're actually in the hole. So I think remembering it's not what you make, it's what you take home, and then it's what you do with that take home money. Are you looking at assets first, liability second? And then when you're looking at assets, I would really think about that as this was the decision. I think I was going to promise I would share this. This is the decision that changed everything for me in business. When I decided to stop chasing more and more money every month, when I decided I just get to do the work I love and serve the humans I love, and the people who get it are going to want to work with me. The people who need me to make, $200,000 a month, that's cool. They shouldn't hire me. No one should hire me for the money I'm making or not making, right? When I decided that, and when I decided, and I'm going to use my overflow because I have a really profitable business, one-on-one is stupid profitable. I think no one understands that. It is like, I'm making as much as many of my friends who are making far more, or like taking home the same amount. But when I decided, but I'm still get to have passive revenue, I'm just going to use my overflow to build a passive revenue stream. My business is now what funds my passive revenue engine. That's when things got fun, right? Like then it's actually like, and money loves that fun energy. So I hope that is valuable for you. Let me just see if there's any other comments. And then we'll close this out. Love hearing this, Kim. Kate says, yes, that's right. I've had big issues with money. So now my nervous system is starting to feel regulated around money. It's actually exciting to learn more about how to save, put into retirement, etc. I had no clue before and still so much to learn. It's the nervous system regulation piece is so big. I appreciate you saying that, Kate. I don't know when you hopped on, but I was talking about that earlier. And I just see you and feel you in that so big because that was a big part for me, especially around the safety. And I think that's where savings in particular can just be very, I know I keep more in savings probably than some people would recommend, but it is so nervous system regulating to me. And to me, like that is more important than anything. So I love that you said that. And I'll just reflect to you because I think for so many people, like, yes, there's a lot for us to learn, but I also think it's kind of like business. We can make this as complicated or not complicated as it needs to be. Like, yes, there's things like I didn't know about as an S Corp, like some of the tax saving retirement plans, like those are great things to learn. But outside of that, most of this is actually pretty simple. Just like business is very simple, just like being healthy is relatively simple, but in all of these areas, right, we get super in the weeds. So I would just reflect that to everyone. Like, yes, it's great to know about those things, but I don't want anyone walking away from this thinking there's so much you're missing or there's so much you don't know. It also can be relatively simple. All right. Thank you all for being here live with me. I love this conversation. If you want me to share more on this, just seeing if there's, okay, no, not another comment. If you want me to share more on this, or if you have a question after this, drop below and tag me. If you want me to do more conversations around this, let me know. I'm happy. I'm always doing these for you. I'm happy to share with you. And oh my goodness, y'all, I was so excited about this conversation. This is one of my favorite topics in the world. I just kind of geek out about it, clearly. And I also I want to empower all of you. I want you all to see that financial security, freedom, like it doesn't, you don't have to put as much pressure on yourself. Like I think it's just it just gives us so much as women in particular, but I know there's men here as well. But I have a free masterclass coming up. I didn't even announce it. And I'm also very excited about this free masterclass. So that's my alarm that I have a coaching call. But I'll drop the link for this. But we have a free masterclass called the Fully Booked Method coming up in 2 weeks. This is brand new. I have never offered this before. I'm walking you through one simple strategy to get and stay fully booked and on the path to making 250K years and above. If you know my story, I was not always fully booked. I had a struggle bus phase for about 2.5 years, and then I got fully booked with 20 to 25 clients, and I have been fully booked ever since, almost 6 years now, and make 350K, 365K plus per year in my business. And I have done that with one simple strategy. I'm still using the same strategy today that I was before. So I'm going to break this down for you. Obviously, it's not the only strategy to get fully booked. I would never tell you there's only one way, but this is a strategy I've seen work for my clients. Even some of my clients who have scaled to $1 million are using this strategy. I've seen it work for multiple industries, OBMs, other coaches, therapists, lawyers. I've seen this really work in different places. It is so simple. So I'm going to walk you through the strategy, the framework itself, and then I'm going to show you how to scale the strategy as your practice, as your business fills up, because it will. And I think it's nice to know how to scale the strategy with you. So this is going to be a really juicy one. I just finished the playbook workbook a couple days ago. I think this might be my best class ever. I hope, but I think so. I don't want to overpromise and underdeliver, but I'm pretty psyched about this one. I want y'all to have it because, as you can see here, I'm on a mission to help you make more money in a way that feels good, but also to see how simple and non-complicated it can be. So I will drop a link for that. It's completely free. I would love, love, love to have you. Kate says, thank you. Awesome as always. Thank you for being here. I love and appreciate you all so much, sincerely. So thank you all for being here. And then I'll be back next week. I've got a fun topic for you before we have our masterclass. Bye, y'all.